So hey anime fans, the series name is What If Naruto and Sasuke Went to Fairy Tale. So let's start the series. Naruto had done it, after all these years, through blood, sweat and tears, and the cost of his right arm. Naruto had done it. He had brought Sasuke back from his darkness and gotten his best friend back. Some would argue that bringing peace to the elemental nations by uniting the 5 nations through his will alone was more important, but not to him. Fulfilling his promise and never giving up on his word was more important to him. All he had to do was use his left hand to form the seal that would bring this nightmare to a close and free his friends and comrades. He just needed to listen to the geezer sage explain how to undo the infinite Tsukuyomi. Simply use your remaining hands to weave the rat sign and the jutsu will be undone. Hagoromo, the fabled sage of sixth paths, explained. Sasuke, stated Naruto with all the confidence of the world, the biggest grin he could muster on his bruised face. Right, Sasuke said calmly, as though he hadn't been in a life or death match only just earlier today. The two performed the hand sign and could hear the great tree imprisoning the world's inhabitants slowly start to awake and free its captors. No! 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 You brats ruined it. Do you know how long it took me to arrange this? To revive my mother? Centuries. All wasted thanks to you insignificant brats, yelled a voice they had learned to belong to Black Zetsu. They could hear him, but both inheritors of half the sage's power were exhausted. Sasuke fighting his previous incarnation, as well as a literal goddess, followed by a death match with Naruto, who had inherited the other half of the sage's power, and could now basically be considered a demigod, had left him depleted and running on fumes. Naruto was always considered a stamina freak, having a ridiculous amount of chakra from his parentage to actual chakra being sealed inside him and having the unique ability to recharge using nature chakra. Naruto rarely knew what it was like to know exhaustion, but after fighting for 3 days non-stop, fighting Kage-level opponents, a primordial chakra monster, a revived legendary Uchiha and a goddess, all leading up to a showdown with his equally powerful rival and best friend, well, let's say he had had better days. Both shinobi were on their toes, using whatever they had left to find their hidden foe. Having no luck in finding Zetsu, they turned until their backs were to each other and waited for an impending attack. Sasuke, having the better eyes of the two, could see movement coming from the top half of what he had assumed to be a deceased Madara Uchiha. The man had flipped himself over from where the first Hokage had left him. Though he could not see his face under the thick black mane of the man, he was lifting his head to shift his gaze towards the duo. Only then did he see that the left half of the nearly dead man was all black. Purple Rinnegan flaring to life along with the crimson Sharingan as he used a combination of the 2 Dijutsu to remove the two from this earth. Begone! Shouted Zetsu, as he used the legendary Uchiha's powers to send the two to another dimension, or kill them. He wasn't picky. Naruto! Shouted Sasuke frantically as the blonde spun to face his adversary. Sasuke, having seen Zetsu prepare his stolen technique, leapt away and prepared to counterattack. Naruto, not knowing what was coming, was not so lucky. He was swallowed by a black hole, created to remove him from this world. The last thing he saw of his world was Sasuke's shocked face as he watched his best friend disappear. Falling. He was falling from a height that would surely kill an average person. He could land with minimal injury if he had his strength. Unfortunately, Naruto was running on fumes, and Kurama had yet to wake up from his slumber, having saved his ass against Sasuke. So, with nothing left to give, he fell to what he would assume would be his death. If he was lucky, he wouldn't feel it. Black. When he awoke, he could smell medicine and feel bandages littering his body. His throat was about as dry as Shikaku's sand. When he opened his eyes, he was blinded by the bright white lights in the room. He could only assume he was in a hospital. At this time his body decided to remind him that he was in fact very much alive, and currently life hurt a lot. Well, it's about time you woke up. Was starting to think you'd never wake, said a voice. Turning his head, he saw a dark orange-haired man. He was a muscular man, clothed in a dark cloak and an armor around his torso and bandages around his forearms. The man had a dark orange beard covering his face, and dark green eyes stared lazily at the bandaged teen. The man then tipped back a rather large bottle of what he could smell to be alcohol of some kind. The name's Gildarts Clive, Ace of Fairy Tale. You were in pretty rough shape when I found you. Judging by the crater I found you in, you literally fell out of the sky. But based on the injuries you had, you were fighting something pretty strong in those mountains. Something I've been looking for. If I had to guess, here, "Drink this," stated the now-named Gildarts, who handed him a glass of water, gulping down the clear liquid as though his life depended on it, though wincing at his more than likely broken ribs as he moved his arm. His arm! Now that he had some water in his system and had regained some of his senses, he realized that he had just accepted the glass with his right arm, which last he checked was a stump, cut off at the elbow, completely destroyed by his clash with Sasuke. Yet here it was, looking good as new, not even a scar to mar his tanned skin. The only question is how? His arm hadn't been cut off, it had been completely destroyed. It no longer existed and therefore could not be reattached. So how? You look pretty confused there, kid. But to be fair, that arm was just a stub when I found you. Amazing what 2 weeks stay in a magic hospital will do, though they only helped you heal. You got a mighty regeneration magic or something. Never seen anyone regrow a lost limb before. You got some powerful magic to be able to do that, Gildarts explained and marveled. 2 weeks? I've been out for 2 weeks, and magic? You think I'm dumb, old man? Magic is the thing of children's stories, and where am I? Asked a rather confused whiskered teen. You fall out of the sky and regrow an arm, and magic seems to be the thing you take issue with? And I'm not that old, you brat, Gildarts replied, and you're at a clinic in the Phoenix Mountains, about 2 hours from Crocus. Where is it you're supposed to be? The doctor never found a guild mark on you, so I'm not sure of who to contact about you. Crocus? Phoenix Mountains? I've never heard of them, but I guess that makes sense, Naruto asked rather somberly. His final moments in his home world were coming back to him. He wasn't in his world, and he was alone again, saving Sasuke, and the world was kind of a hollow victory now. He would never see his friends again, never see his home, never eat Ichiraku ramen again. He gave his life for his world, and now he was in an entirely new world. He would have to start over. Kid, you there? You've been staring at that wall for a while now, Gildarts said, having snapped Naruto from his thoughts. I was thinking, I'm not sure where to go. I'm not from here, I'm from far away, and I can't go back. Even if I could, I'm not sure how. Naruto gave the man some insight to his thoughts. Well, kid, if you want, you could come with me. You clearly don't have anywhere to go, and you know how to fight and hold your own. The guild could use a guy like you. No matter how beat up you get, it seems like you won't be down for long. The doc thought you'd be asleep for another month at least, and even he was shocked at how fast you're healing. Even regrow that arm. Shocked the hell out of us. Never seen a magic like that before, said the orange-haired man. Guild? Magic? Why do you keep mentioning magic? This isn't some fairy tale, old man, Naruto asked. You are from far away if you've never heard of guilds and magic, much less a guild as famous as Fairy Tail. Gildarts thought, well, it's decided, kid. You'll come with me and join the guild. If there's a way for you to get home, then I have no doubt the master will be able to help you out. So, stop moping and I'll go tell the doc you're up, Gildarts stated with little room to argue as he left the room. Hey! I didn't agree to anything yet, old man, Naruto shouted after the man. And put those clothes I left on the bed on, he shouted from outside the room. As he looked to the foot of the bed, he found a set of clothes that most certainly weren't his, laying neatly folded. He realized his normal orange and black jumpsuit likely hadn't survived the dimension jump in the fall. He'd have to suck it up for now. Skip. Well, let's get going, kid, Gildarts shouted from down the road. Naruto, now garbed in a rather bland black shirt and pants, the remains of his headband in his pocket, the doctor having returned it to him before he left, and the scroll containing some of his equipment in another. If only he had a spare jumpsuit in there. He looked cool in it. Will you stop calling me kid, old man? And wait up, I'm still injured and don't know where I'm going, Naruto shouted back. I'll stop calling you kid when you learn some manners and introduce yourself, kid, Gildarts yelled back, still going on his way. Naruto began a jog, having been healed by the doctor's odd power, was in much better shape than when he had woken up, but still had some soreness that would only go away with some rest. He finally caught up to the older man and slowed to match Gildarts' rather jovial pace. Naruto, said the blonde, embarrassed he hadn't told the man his name. Hearing the man grunt in question, he continued, my name's Naruto, Naruto Uzumaki. Well, Naruto, we got a bit before we reached the next town. Why don't you tell me what caused all that damage you had? Wouldn't have been a black dragon, would it? Gildarts asked, intrigued by the potential answer. Dragon? Magic? This place is weird, Naruto said. No, I wasn't a dragon. I fought in a war, and fought a bunny goddess, Naruto said, as though that sounded more normal than a dragon. A war? I didn't know any of the surrounding countries were at war, and a bunny goddess? Are you sure you're okay? You did hit the ground pretty hard, and aren't you a little young to fight in a war of all things? Asked the skeptical Gildarts. Hey, I'm a proud shinobi of the Hidden Leaf Village. And young? Shinobi starts training at like 13. I'm basically a veteran. And yeah, a bunny goddess. She kept throwing me around all these different worlds with her eyes and kept trying to steal my chakra. Naruto exclaimed, as though that explained everything. Shinobi? You mean like one of those ninja clans from way out east? And what kind of rabbit sends people to other dimensions with their eyes? Gildarts questioned. Their eyes. Sasuke can use his eyes to come find him. He had a Rinnegan now too, maybe there was a way home after all, and if he did go to this fairy tale, maybe he could find a way to help Sasuke find him. With a renewed confidence, Naruto began to outpace Gildarts, eager to look for a way home. Kid, slow down. If you don't know where you are, how are you going to get there? Gildarts shouted, trying to catch up to the now energetic boy. Hey old man, what's this about a black dragon? Naruto asked as he continued to speed ahead. Skip. Well, here we are, home sweet home, Gildarts said as he strode through the currently realigning town. Naruto bewildered by the town shifting around, as sirens blared, seeming to warn every one of the man's arrival, if the voice he heard warning the townsfolk of a Gildarts shift. Whatever that was? But it made their destination clear, as the buildings moved to form a path that led toward the cliffside and large building he could see in the distance. As they strode forward, the building became larger until they were standing in its cast shadow. Welcome to Fairy Tale, Naruto, Gildarts stated proudly. The man then stood up straight and made his way to the double doors leading inside and shoved both open with a mighty shove, only to reveal a rather large and rowdy crowd of people, screaming, fighting, furniture being destroyed, spells firing to and fro, an entire pile of broken chairs and tables on fire, and a flying cat screaming about fish, as well as what he could only describe as a demon flying around throwing a dark-colored magic around at a girl in armor. It was not what he expected in the slightest, but not the weirdest thing he's ever walked in on. Enough, you brats. Do you have any idea how much this is gonna cost the guild to fix all this damage? Yelled an absolute giant of an old man yelled out, as he smashed a pink-haired kid with his equally giant fist. The crowd had stopped what they were doing and seemed to look sheepish about their actions. Even the demon had stopped mid-flight to turn towards the giant. Now he could see that the demon was in fact a young woman, probably about his age. She had long white hair tied into a ponytail, held back by a red bow. Since she was facing away from him at the moment, he had no idea what her face looked like, but her body would more than likely be the star of one of his master's books. That and her choice of clothes, a tight black top that showed off her back and midriff and squeezed against her abundant chest. Trailing down her porcelain back he could see the tight, short purple skirt held up her wide hips by a white belt. The fact that she was flying plus her short skirt that it could only be by magic, that the girl's underwear wasn't on display right now. Not that he had tried to peek. To finish up this girl's scarce choice of clothing was a pair of thigh-high, heeled leather boots that stopped mid-thigh, squeezing the rather supple flesh, giving a rather satisfying pudge if he was honest. Overall, he thought that despite not seeing her face, her generous curves and skimpy clothing, he was sure she'd be quite attractive. Gildarts! Don't go making a bigger mess! Shouted the giant. It was at that moment that Naruto saw the most absolutely beautiful girl he's ever seen. The demon girl, as he'd come to call her, had blue eyes that he could swear would put his own to shame, like large sapphires glinting in the light staring at him and the man he arrived with. There was no denying it. Naruto was smitten. This demon angel would either haunt or grace his dreams for the foreseeable future. Master! There's someone I want you and the guild to meet. I think he'll make a fine addition to this rambunctious guild. The guild's ace loudly declared. Go on, kid, introduce yourself. Ugh. Hello, I'm Naruto Uzumaki. Pleasure to meet you all, the boy said, rather embarrassed to be put on the spot like this. The guild just stared at him, not really enthused nor negative with his arrival. Or not. He muttered to himself. You must be the kid Gildarts spoke about. You don't look as beat up as he described, though I guess if our guild's ace is vouching for you then I guess you must be tough. I'm Makarov Dreyer, current master of Fairy Tale. Nice to meet you. said an old kind voice. Naruto looked around for the man who had spoken but found no one. He assumed that the giant man he had seen squish that pink-haired kid was the master, but the giant seemed to have vanished. "Down here, kid," said the same voice. Naruto looked down to find the small master of Fairy Tail, smiling up at him, with a kindness one would find in a grandfather figure. "Ah, where'd you come from?" Naruto shouted, startled by the small man's appearance. "I walked right up to you, though I guess that could be forgiven. The guild has a rather distracting quirkiness that startles newcomers. You were probably focused on the bar brawl you saw, or the fire. Everyone likes to see a fire," the man said. "So, what brings you to our guild?" "Well," the old man said, "that since I had nowhere to go, that the guild might be able to help me get home, that you might know a way back to where I come from," the blonde said with some hope. "Well, I'm not all sure about that, but Fairy Tail is a home for the lost and the misguided. If Gildarts vouches for you, that's good enough for me, and I can see what I can do about helping you find your way home. For now, let's just get you settled, and we can work out the details later," the kind man said. "Urza, bring me the guild stamp, please," he shouted to someone behind him. That's nice you're so accepting of me, but if Gildarts told you about me, well then, I'm not so sure I want to join the guild. I gotta get home as fast as possible. I just finished a war and have to check on my friends. I have no idea if they're okay or not," Naruto stated. "Yes, Gildarts told me. Unfortunately, I'm not aware of any country that has been in a war recently, which only means you come from a far place not so easily reached. It will take some time and most likely quite a bit of money to get you home. Luckily, if you join the guild, you can solve one of those problems," Makarov explained. It was about this time that Urza arrived with what the old man had asked for. She was a rather pretty girl about his age. She had long straight scarlet hair that reached the small of her back that had him compare the girl to his mom. Beautiful red hair. But that was the only similarity the two women shared. This girl had brown eyes, in contrast to his mother's purple eyes. Urza was wearing a set of armor that covered her top half and her arms. She had a blue skirt that reached just past her knees, and a pair of brown leather boots that stopped below her knees. To complete her knightly look, she had a sword strapped to her hip. He recalled this girl being the one to clash with the demon girl upon his arrival. "Naruto, this is Urza Scarlet, one of our S-class wizards." "Urza, this is Naruto. He's here to join the guild with Gildart's approval," the wizened master told the girl. "Hello, it's a pleasure to meet you, Naruto," the girl stated as she gave a slight bow. At least she was nice. Hello, it's nice to meet you," Naruto stated, unsure of how to take the girl who moments ago was in a clash that could put some shinobi to shame. "Naruto, for now go with Urza and meet some of the other members. Me and Gildarts should speak. We can get you into the guild shortly after," the master waved off as he strode away. Gildarts, following behind the short man, before he could rebut the man's words, he felt an iron grip grab his wrists and haul him in the other direction. "Please, Naruto, follow me," said the scarlet-haired girl, as she led him towards the other side of the guild hall. "Tin Can, I see you found yourself a boyfriend. He kind of looks pathetic. But what should I expect from a cow like you?" a rather snarky voice said. "As luck would have it," said voice belonged to the very girl he was enamored with earlier. "Not now, Mira," Master said to introduce him to everyone, the girl said with some annoyance in her voice, clearly irritated with the white-haired girl's remarks. "Naruto, this is Mira Jane. Don't mind her, she's always this bitchy." So that was the catch. Absolutely gorgeous 10 out of 10, but had a shitty personality. Figures. Bitchy? "Ha, you're just too uptight. Maybe if you didn't have to stuff your fat ass into that garbage can, the blood would flow to your brain, and you might be able to put up a decent fight," the girl, now named Mary Jane, replied cockily. "What was that, you goth slut?" said the angered redhead, as she lunged toward Mary Jane. Another fight ensued, though only between the two young women, and not the guild in its entirety. "Sorry about that, Big Sis can be a little abrasive to new people," a kind younger voice stated. Naruto turned and to his shock found what he assumed to be a younger, short-haired version of Mary Jane looking at him, a tall, slender kid, who had the same hair and eye color as the two young women he had met stood beside the young girl. "My name's Lysana Strauss, and this is my brother Elfman," the girl answered his unasked question. "Mary Jane is our older sister. Please don't think little of her. She's not so trusting of new people because of our childhood. She really is a good person," the girl said to defend her older sister. "Yeah, it was rough on her, but Big Sis is a man. To go through that and still keep going, It's so manly. The boy named Elfman said, rather lamely, and unmanly, in his opinion. Naruto Uzumaki, don't worry about it. I've met people much worse than your sister, Naruto said to the nice siblings. He did file away the bit about the rough childhood though, he had experience in that. So, are they always like that, or? He asked the two as he watched the two fighting women throw each other around and destroying more chairs. Oh, that? Yes, Urza and Myra's rivalry is a little extreme, to new people. They'll be done in a minute, the young girl said to him. Lee-sana. Who's the new kid? Shouted yet another new voice. He should prepare. Lot of new voices and faces to learn. The kid who he saw get smashed into the ground was now next to Lee-sana, followed by another new kid, though this one was missing a shirt and had dark blue hair. Kid? I'm older than you brat. Naruto exclaimed towards the pink-haired boy. Natsu, be nice. Naruto was brought here by Gildarts. You should try to make a good impression. Lee-sana lectured the pink boy. Natsu then remarked, if Gildarts brought you, then that means you're strong. Fight me, Natsu. Lee-sana once again said, this time carrying an edge in her voice. Be nice. Naruto just got here. Yeah, flame brain, have some class. The name's Gray, said the now naked dark-haired boy. What did you call me? You stripper! Shouted Natsu, and then proceeded to start yet another fight. And this is also normal? Naruto asked the youngest Strauss. Unfortunately, Natsu and Gray are rivals too, the girl said, embarrassed by her guildmates. No, not that, I meant the kid stripping naked in front of everyone. Yes, that too, she replied, further embarrassed. Please follow me, Naruto. I'll introduce you to everyone else. Lee-sana proceeded to show Naruto around and introduced him to the members of the guild who were currently not away on jobs. He had to admit, the guild had some rather unique characters, and considering some of the shinobi he knew, was saying something. I'm not sure where Kana went off to, she's usually by the bar, and I know she was here today, the girl said, confused, wondering where her senior had run off to. Mirror POV. The day had started off rather normal. She and her siblings had gone on a small job to get some funds for the next couple of days before returning to the guild, and as normal, a brawl had started in the guild hall. But whatever, just an excuse to kick the tin can's ass. That was until the master got pissed and shut it down. And what's more, the guild's elusive ace had decided to visit the guild, and he brought some newbie with him. The guy honestly didn't look very impressive, especially if he was brought by Gildarts, and those clothes he wore, so bland and boring. Black was a good color, but those clothes were awful. But I guess he was cute though, reminded her a bit too much of that bastard Laxus with that bright blonde hair. But those blue eyes looked like her own family's blue orbs. Okay, he was pretty good looking. And those whisker marks made him look kind of feral? Beastie? Then she briefly made her presence known, before she was dragged into a fight with the tin can, which she won, and started, and now she looked on with her siblings as the new guy got his guild mark. Orange? And on his chest? How original. Half the guys had their guild marks on their chests. This guy was going to be boring like the rest of them too. That was until he removed his shirt, which honestly was too big for him anyway. Good thing too, wouldn't want to show how much of a twig he. Holy! The new guy was ripped. Maybe she judged too quick. The guy had abs she could grate cheese on, and he was tanned. When he finally got his shirt off, she saw the scars, well, specifically the big one. It looked like he took a lightning bolt to the heart. It was faded, which meant he had it for a while. Then after he got his mark, in orange, on his left pec, he turned to put his shirt back on. And she saw that the scars got worse, mainly, the big one, which was on the opposite side of the one on his chest, which meant whatever did that, had pierced through his body and came out the other side. If Mira was honest with herself, the scars unnerved her. In a word, with magic, scars were rare, even with all the things she endured in her childhood. Her skin remained unblemished. Scars meant usually one of two things. One, that whatever happened hadn't been attended to soon enough, or that what had caused it was so powerful that healing magic couldn't overcome it. She was inclined to believe in this case, it was the latter. Still, she couldn't feel any magic from this guy. So, what if he had a rockin' bod, a sexy face and those confident blue eyes? If he didn't have any magic, then he'd be a nobody. So, what exactly did Gildarts see in this guy? Naruto POV. There, officially a part of Fairy Tail. Makarov stated proudly as the guild cheered for their new member. But I'm afraid there's one more thing to do. and I'm sure the rest of the guild are wondering what exactly you can do, so I guess I can just pit you against one of the guild's wizards to test you. Any volunteers? Makarov asked. I volunteer. The guild turned towards the voice to see Fairy Tale's very own demon, Mira Jane Strauss, looking at the new guy with determination in her eyes. Mira, maybe not one of the S-class mages, Master attempted to dissuade the girl. Even the other members agreed. Mira was a monster. Best not to discourage new members on their first day. No, the kid can handle it, Gildart stated, leaving no room for argument. Go on, kid, show us what you got. I volunteer. The guild turned towards the voice to see Fairy Tale's very own demon, Mira Jane Strauss, looking at the new guy with determination in her eyes. Mira, maybe not one of the S-class mages, Master attempted to dissuade the girl. Even the other members agreed. Mira was a monster. Best not to discourage new members on their first day. No, the kid can handle it, Gildart stated, leaving no room for argument. Go on, kid, show us what you got. I guess I can show you something, Naruto said, rather unsure of how much effort to put into this spar. You guess? Don't worry, I won't kill you, unless those muscles are for show, Mira taunted. As the guild made their way outside, Gildarts thought it best to give the blonde a heads-up pep talk. Kid, don't let her fool you. That girl looks real good on the outside, but she's got some power to her, a literal demon. Gildarts gave the boy some tips. Her magic is strong. She can use a demon's power as her own. Pretty sure that's why she acts so haughty. Uses the power of demons, huh? Sounds like something I have experience with, Naruto said, mostly to himself. As he made his way through the crowd, he found Mira Jane in a clearing waiting for him. About time you showed up, figured you'd chicken out. It's okay. I wouldn't want to fight neither, Mira said with a confident smirk. Naruto didn't reply. Instead, he waited for the match to begin. He sat back and watched as she bent her arms, fists tight as she also waited for the to go ahead. He noticed that the girl had no stance to begin with, which meant that she either didn't have any hand-to-hand training, or she was just that confident. He was willing to bet it was probably a little of both. But he figured without Kurama being awake, he should use what he had available and began to gather sage chakra. Alright brats, listen up, this is a one-on-one match. No killing or maiming your opponents. The match will end with a knockout, a surrender, or if I say so, Makarov yelled out so everyone could hear. He looked at both fighters and received a nod from both. Begin! Mira instantly transformed into her Satan soul form. Instead of charging forward, she began to gloat. It's not too late to back out now. I won't hold it against you. I am an S-class, and quite the demon, she said in a much deeper, more mature voice. Naruto didn't even flinch. Thanks to his gathering of sage chakra, he could feel how strong she was. He'd put her at about a high chunin, maybe low jonin level. If this was what passed as an S-class, then they would freak if he ever used his full power. Could he even use his full power? His arm was back, the sage's mark was back. But Kurama was still asleep. He'd figure it out later. It was about this time that he gathered the necessary amount of chakra to go into sage mode, which was good. Since Mira Jane didn't feel like waiting for him to make the first move any longer, she was a little hot-headed, wasn't she? Take this, Mira shouted as she flew across the field towards him. Her right fist cocked back, aimed right for his face. Naruto simply shifted his feet and used his left hand to catch the girl's fist. This drew some attention, as spectators had expected the boy to dodge. Mira Jane was one of their S-class after all. She had strength that few could match. Even Mira Jane was shocked. Not even Urza had the strength to catch her fist. In fact, he had stopped her charge completely. She simply floated in front of him. Unable to press forward, instead, she lit her fist up in her darkness magic and used it to free her from the boy's grasp, before returning to her starting position. Huh, not bad, but don't think I put my all into that. I was going easy on you, she said arrogantly. She again charged forward, this time faster, and both fists covered in her dark magic, only to receive the same result. Only this time a shockwave mazed its way from the two, crashing into the surrounding mages. It toppled hats and blew around everyone's hair and loose clothing, but showed them the difference in the strength in both attacks. Is that all you got? Naruto spoke for the first time since the match started. This of course infuriated Mira Jane, and had the guild members questioning his sanity. I'll show you! She yelled before her feet were also coated in the dark energy, and she began wildly punching and kicking towards the boy. Naruto used his heightened senses to dance around her attacks. Before he delivered a devastating blow to the girl's unguarded midsection, Mary Jane coughed up some spit before grabbing her stomach, collapsing onto the ground, her Satan soul leaving, and her normal form returning. The guild stood back in shock. It wasn't every day one of their S-class was defeated by a non-S-class after all, much less in one blow. Mira had yet to take a breath, having had the wind literally knocked out of her. Oh shit, Naruto panicked. Hey, take a second, catch your breath. I'm sorry, I guess I don't know my own strength, he continued as he started to fret over the downed girl. Makarov decided to call the match. As he believed something to be wrong, he knew Myra's capabilities better than most after having seen her during the last year's S-class trials. If she got knocked out of her takeover form and hadn't gotten back up, she had to have sustained a major injury. Mira, who finally took a big gasp of air, began to cough for her trouble. She looked at the boy who had dropped to her knees and was staring at her with concern. She was shocked. The boy had some real worry in his eyes from what he had done. She had only ever had her siblings show her the concern and care she was receiving. It was very odd for her. She felt flattered the boy showed concern for her. It was too bad her demon side outweighed her teenage girl side. She was furious the boy had beaten her, in one punch, a newbie at that. TCH, you got a lucky hit in. You should just be happy Master called the match. She sneered at the boy. Don't look down on me. Next time you won't be so lucky. Look, Mary Jane, I don't doubt your strength, he began. Save it. I don't want your pity, she said as she got up and turned away from the boy. Naruto for his part felt he could sympathize with her. Added the bit of information the girl's siblings had provided, he had a feeling the two of them were more alike than he thought. Mary Jane, calm yourself. I had a feeling the boy was stronger than I thought. Guildarts did vouch for him, Master stated to the irritated girl, which didn't do anything to comfort the girl. Naruto, I didn't realize your physical abilities were so strong. We didn't get to see any of your magic, so that's unhelpful, Makarov said, unsure of how to proceed. Well then, he'll have to fight someone with a similar strength, so, he'll have to use his magic then, won't he? Asked the smirking Guildarts, who now stood in the spot Mary Jane did at the start of the match. Master, I will test him. I couched for him. It's my responsibility. Guildarts, I don't think that's a good idea. Naruto is strong, but you are another monster indeed. We don't even know what his magic does. And you can destroy the town just by walking through it. Master rebutted the man's words. I accept, Naruto stated calmly and confidently. This got a reaction from everyone, as they all began to yell and make bets, none believing the boy could beat the ace. I'll even give you a chance. I'll only use 50% of my power to fight you, kid, Guildarts added. Master, if you would. Makarov then raised a hand toward the man, spoke some words under his breath as a small flash of light enveloped the man. There, I've sealed away half your magic, same rules as before, and Guildarts, when I say stop, you stop, the small man added. Begin. Naruto, having still been in sage mode, decided to go on the offensive. If the man was the ace, the strongest the guild had to offer, then he was much stronger than Mary Jane. He charged forward, intent on planting his fist in the man's chest. Guildarts shifted before he gave a lazy swing down as if to hit Naruto on the head. Naruto dodged to the side, having felt the power gathered in the man's fist. He watched as his lazy punch hit the ground and caused an explosion. The force actually blew him away from the man. Naruto landed about 20 yards away from the man and the new crater he was standing in. He could no longer see him with the dust in the air. My crash magic causes massive damage to things around me. It's incredibly hard to control. It's why the town moves around when I show up. I can blow things up just by walking into them. When I use it in battle, it's easier to control, but to just not use it for everyday tasks is another headache. The hidden man stated, you better take it up a notch if you want to even hit me. I don't advise you catch one of my attacks. The man then charged forward, forcing Naruto on the defensive. Naruto dodged the man's fists much like he had Mary Jane's. The man was slower than the demon girl, but his power was much more potent than hers. Naruto, having had enough of dodging, summoned 2 Raisengans, deciding to use them in a similar fashion to Hinata's twin lion fists, and began to slam his attacks into the man's oncoming barrage of punches. The resulting shockwaves actually knocked a couple of the weaker mages watching off their feet. Everyone was watching in shock, none more so than Fairy Tail's 2 S-class females. The two knew the gap between themselves and Guildarts was vast, but even they didn't believe they could match the man's power, even if he only had access to half his magic. Naruto and Guildarts continued to clash. Explosions of energy continued to rock the very ground they were standing on. Gildarts began to smirk and began to add to the power of his strikes, actually putting some power in and behind each blow. Naruto, who had to continue to add his own and a portion of nature chakra into his own attacks just to keep up, could feel his empowered state start to fade. Instead, he poured every ounce of nature chakra he had into one final blow, causing Gildarts to be blown off his feet and blasted away from the blonde shinobi. "Is that all you got?" Gildarts asked, smirk still on his smug face, using Naruto's taunt against Mirajane against him. Naruto, having no more nature energy, deciding he needed to buy some time to gather more, raising his hands into his signature cross-hand sign, he called out his technique. Shadow Clone Jutsu. 2 clones popped into existence behind him. Both immediately sat on the ground to begin gathering energy. Naruto charged ahead. He reached into his back pouch as he neared Gildarts. He dodged the man's punch and slapped an explosive tag onto the man's side. He knew he could take it. The man's magic would negate a good portion of the blast. Then he made a dash away from the man. Boom! The blast lifted the earth beneath the man into the sky. A dark cloud enclosed the man. As chunks of rock fell toward the ground, he could hear the man's magic disintegrate anything that fell on the man. Cough cough asterisk, man, I didn't think you could make me explode like that. It kinda tickled, he heard the man say. Naruto was unsure of how to proceed. He knew nothing about magic and less about Gildart's crash magic. Only that it was powerful, and it acted as an armor that kept him from getting close. If he punched the man, he could explode, and he honestly didn't want to find out what that would feel like. Instead, he summoned a dozen clones and sent them in to find out. The guild watched as a dozen of the blonde charged forward and attempted to punch the crash mage. Naruto was surprised to see that instead of exploding on contact with the man, his magic instead acted like a shield, instead of basically a bomb, which meant the man had to hit him with it to use it offensively, which meant he could hit him. It would just mean his magic would protect him and dampen anything the blonde threw at him. But that meant only one thing to the blonde: he could win. He let the clones continue to buy him time till he could use the nature chakra his first 2 clones were gathering. He watched the clones dance around the man, dodging his blows, and tanking everything they could dish out and then some. Gildarts clearly got tired of fighting the clones as he gathered a large amount of his magic and struck the ground. The explosion took out the ground he stood on and the 12 clones around him. Naruto was then able to sift through the memories his clones had experienced. He found that the clones were giving it all they had. It was like bare-fisted punching a brick wall. The ace's magic really did act as an armor. Naruto deactivated one of his clones to gather its nature chakra. The telltale orange once again surrounded his eyes. Then he charged forward towards the man once again. This time, as he dodged the man's heavy blows, knowing that taking one would probably mean defeat, he proceeded to use his enhanced strength to punch away at the man, hoping to find a limit to the man's magic defense or his body's reserves. The guild winced as they heard Naruto continue to rain down blows into the man's body as he dodged around their ace's own. Each impact carried an audible impact they could hear very distinctively. This went on for a couple moments. Naruto was going to lose his Sage mode a second time this fight. Having used chakra to enhance his strikes, he was beginning to think he couldn't damage Gildarts. That was until he saw the small amount of blood leaking from the man's mouth. It was almost undetectable with the man's orange beard acting as camouflage, but it was there. Naruto smirked, finally seeing some progress in chipping away at the man's defense. Makarov, however, was impressed. He too could see the blood from Gildart's mouth, meaning Naruto was actually capable of damaging the man. He didn't think anyone in the guild, bar himself, could actually injure the crash mage. He also took notice of Naruto's tactical thinking. He wouldn't charge in blindly like Natsu. He could see when the blonde made those clones, that he used them to gather intel on the man's abilities, which meant he could think in the midst of combat, a trait he looked for while he was evaluating his S-class mages. Makarov also took notice that Naruto waited till the mysterious power he felt from him came back and the orange pigment around his eyes was once again present before the real Naruto moved to press Gildarts. Impressed he was, and if he could actually challenge and damage the famed ace of Fairy Tail, then it seemed he might have yet another S-class mage on his hands. He'd have to speak with Gildarts about this. Urza was shocked. Admittedly, she didn't think much of the blonde when he arrived alongside the guild's ace. Sure, he was particularly nice, handsome she guessed, though it was an unfair comparison. The only people her age she could compare the blonde to was Laxus, Gray and Natsu, and she didn't find any of the three attractive. Natsu and Gray were more like brothers to her, and much too childlike for her to consider attractive, cute maybe, but not handsome. Laxus, well, he was an ass, too much for her to overlook to even give him the satisfaction of calling handsome. Naruto was handsome, but his bland clothes did nothing for him. Sure, she had seen the boy take his shirt off and could see his rather muscled body. His scars, however, left her with many questions. It was clear he was no stranger to battle, but again in those clothes he seemed bland and boring, so to see the man one-shot her rival, Mary Jane, who she herself had difficulty keeping up with at times, be defeated so easily, it made her wonder how she would fare against the blonde. Then Gildarts challenged the blonde, and to see him actually pose a challenge for the man, even at half strength, made her doubt she even stood a chance against the mysterious boy named Naruto. Mary Jane was conflicted. On one hand, Naruto was putting on a show that no one in the guild expected while facing Gildarts of all people, Gildarts. So she was rooting for him. After all, he needed to be incredibly strong to defeat her so easily. If he couldn't take on the ace, then her reputation would plummet, being defeated in one punch. That hurt her pride, but on the other hand she hoped the ace would knock the blonde's teeth out. That would show him for humiliating her. Sis, said Lysana, it's okay, I think you did great. Yeah, you were a real man out there, Elfman added, trying to comfort his sister. Thanks, you too, but seeing him take on Gildarts, I don't think I stood a chance, she said in a rare show of uncertainty. No! You did good. No one knew what he could do and you were the only one brave enough to fight him. You gave it your all and that's what matters. Naruto's super strong, so next time you'll be ready. Lysana said without any room to argue, you're my big sister, and I still think you're the best, she added softly. Mary Jane felt like she could cry. She could feel the support of her siblings. Even after watching her lose to a stronger opponent, they still believed in her. So she only had one choice. She couldn't let them down now, could she? Well, I gotta say, you sure pack a wallop, Gildarts said in between breaths. It seemed that having his power halved was starting to show. You're one to talk, look around, all these craters are from you, Naruto said evenly. He wasn't even-winded. That's enough, Makarov said loudly. Having seen enough, and knowing if the two continued, either one of the other members would be caught in the crossfire, or one of the two would be severely hurt. The guild, however, didn't see his reasoning and began to show their disappointment in not being able to see the end of two strong mages duking it out. Ha! It's been a while since I've been pushed like this. Not many people are strong or dumb enough to try and punch me in the face, Gildarts said with a huge grin on his face, not letting the others see how affected he was by the blonde's barrage. He had a reputation to keep after all. He'd sneak off to see poorly Yusuke later. Congratulations, Naruto, you did very well, and I was able to see a bit of what you can do. I'm impressed you could match Gildarts at half strength, Makarov said happily. Gildarts, we should talk, he said as he began to walk away from the direction of the guild. Of course, but master, the guild's the other way, the man in question said as he followed anyway. Oh, I know. I figured we could take a stroll, maybe stop by and see poorly Yusuke, the small man said, though the last part was quite enough only the two of them could hear. Gildarts, however, glared at the small master's cheeky look as he grumbled and followed after him. That was so cool, you took on Gildarts. You even beat Mira. You can do clone magic? Fight me, stated a now excited Natsu as he stood in front of the blonde, despite the guild's questions and comments. Natsu, if you fought him you'd die, said a flying blue, talking cat. How had he missed that when he was being introduced? Suddenly the guild grew quiet and began to back away from the blonde. He was confused for a moment until he realized why. Mary Jane was making her way towards the blonde. He couldn't get a good read on her mood. She had a rather blank face as she approached. Look, you fought Gildarts and made him try, so I admit you're strong, Blondie. But don't think for a second that I'm not gonna beat you down one day, she declared rather heatedly as she stood before him. Naruto was taken aback by the beautiful mage's conviction. Her sapphire orbs shined with determination to one day defeat him. Naruto, you were a man, Elfman praised. Naruto? Lysana said, gaining his attention. Me and Mirane decided to take you shopping for new clothes, to celebrate your victory, and she left off, 'cause it's all ripped and you're so bland looking. I can't let people see you like that. You don't look remotely cool or badass enough to beat me. Mira finished for her sister, in her own Mira way, of course. Naruto looked down to see that his lone clothes had seen better days, having several rips and tears all over from his match with Gildarts. He looked rather sheepish at the fact that he looked rather ragged. I guess we can do that, he replied. Good, let's go, Mira said as she dragged the boy off, Lisanna following her sister along. Skip. That's much better, Lisanna said as she saw Naruto in the outfit he had picked out. You look like someone who could actually fight me. You're not bland anymore, at least, Mira said with her arms crossed, head turned away, an almost unnoticeable blush on her face she was trying to hide. Unfortunately, her meddling sister had seen the pink in her cheeks. I actually look pretty badass, Naruto said as he looked at himself in the mirror. He was now garbed in a set of black pants similar to the ones used by Jonin back home. He had orange bandages wrapping around his ankles, leading to his black ninja sandals. He had an orange sash tied off to the side at his left hip to keep his pants in place. He had foregone a shirt, as Lisanna suggested he do so to show off his guild mark and his cool scars. And though she didn't voice it out loud, so her sister could see his abs and muscled chest. Instead of a shirt, the girl had found a black vest and had gotten the tailor to put a large guild mark on the back in the same shade of orange as his sash and bandages. To finish off his outfit, he had a black headband and his ninja pouches in place on his hip and thighs. Yeah, I think this could work. You sure I don't need a shirt though? Naruto asked the girls. Mira refused to look at him directly, sneaking glances at the boy, pink dusting her cheeks becoming more prominent the more she looked. Of course. You look so cool, and the scar makes you look like a bad boy. Girls will be all over you. Lisanna said with only one girl in mind, cough Mira asterisk cough asterisk. I don't know about that, I've never been really popular with girls, Naruto said kind of awkwardly, embarrassed by the thought of so much female attention. He wasn't used to that. That was Sasuke's department. Trust me, they'll love you, right Mirane? She said rather teasingly to her sister. Mira Jane, to her credit, looked mortified that her sister had picked up on her attraction to the blonde and was clearly going to exploit it. She turned around completely to hide her blush. I don't know about that, but you don't look like a loser, she said after a moment, not looking at his general direction. It had been about 6 months since Naruto and Gildart's duel. Naruto had been given the rank of S-class at the behest of Gildarts, who reasoned that anyone who could fight him and have had a chance at winning, even when he had only been at half strength, was much stronger than any normal mage. The small master was originally going to make Naruto wait another 6 months for the next S-class trials. However, Gildarts was a prime candidate to inherit the title of Guild Master, even more so than his own grandson, despite his insistence. It would give Gildarts good practice making such decisions, and he might be able to retire now that the orange-haired man was back. So, Makarov had told Gildarts to make the announcement if he felt like Naruto was worthy of the rank. The guild had mixed reviews, of course. Half were for another mage with an S-class status in the guild. The other was not fully on board, making several complaints that 1, Naruto was brand new, and 2, Gildarts wasn't the guild master, he was the ace, and second in command. But still, Makarov had told the guild that he agreed with the decision to promote Naruto. This had a few accept the new information, but others were still skeptical. So as a compromise, Naruto would be on a 6-month probationary period as S-class, to be accompanied by another S-class for evaluation, and by that he meant Gildarts. That was 6 months ago, and today marked the first day he was off probation. To say that he was excited to not have a babysitter was an understatement. He was a shinobi after all. He had been doing more dangerous things at age 13 than he had here in his new home. Speaking of his new home, he had gotten along quite well with those of his age. Well, except Mira Jane. That whole situation was weird. 1 minute she would be fairly pleasant to him, the next she'd yell at him and tell him to be ready for their rematch and his pending defeat. She'd then get flushed in the face and run off. He worried about her. He wondered if she got sick often, given how red she was all the time. Poor girl. He had even met a girl by the name of Kana. She was nice, but apparently was afraid of Gildarts or something. She was never around when the man would show up. He'd have to figure out why that was. A problem for another day, though. The older members of the guild hadn't warmed up to him yet. They'd often be heard by other members that he was too new and too young to be in S-class already, which was weird. They wouldn't dare say that to Urza or Mira, who he had found out were younger than him. Only by a couple months, but still. Naruto! Fight me! Yelled a pink-haired dragon slayer. Natsu, not now. Today's my first day off probation, Naruto replied as he walked past the annoyed boy. He could hear Happy tell the boy why fighting him wouldn't be a good idea. Naruto! Congratulations, said a happy Lisanna. She was so different from her sister he forgot they were related sometimes. Thanks, Lisanna. What are you three up to today? He asked curiously. Mira said not to tell a bunch of people, but she's taking us on an S-class quest, she said in a hushed whisper. That sounds exciting, but are you sure you two are ready? Your sister's strong, but you two are still a way away from her, he said to her in concern. Lisanna, you ready? He heard come from behind him. He turned to see Mary Jane, scowl on her face as she saw him look at her. What do you want, Blondie? Mary Jane, I want to come with you on this job, he told her. He wouldn't suggest it if it was just the older Strauss sibling, but the younger two were not ready for such a task, not yet anyway. We don't need your help, Blondie. I'm plenty enough to kill this monster, she said haughtily. You may be, but your siblings aren't as strong as you. Are you strong enough to kill that monster and keep them safe? He retorted. Look here. You may be an S-class, but I've been one longer than you. I don't need your approval, she told him, rather upset with his opinion of her abilities. Let's go, Lisanna. Thanks for looking out for us, Naruto. But we'll be okay. Mirane is strong, Lisanna added as she ran off to follow her sister. Naruto didn't have his concerns quelled with the two Strauss girls' statements. He decided it would be worth following the siblings. He could be there if needed and stay hidden if he wasn't. It would be worth it to keep the three safe. He was finally getting settled. He didn't want to lose anyone else if he could help it. He had lost enough people in the elemental nations to last a couple lifetimes. With that, he began to head off in the direction he could feel the siblings' energies coming from. Skip. It was rather late in the day. The sun had just gone down, and it was getting dark fast. Mary Jane and her siblings had found it after only a couple hours of tracking it. They spent the last half hour fighting it, and he was impressed with the three's teamwork. Mary Jane provided the firepower. Lisanna and Elfman provided good support to their sister, and now the fruits of their labors lay in front of them. The monster defeated, Mary Jane looked exhausted, but overall fine. Elfman and Lisanna barely had any scratches on them. Maybe he was being overly cautious. He'd have to apologize to Mira for doubting her. And with that, Naruto began to sneak away. He wanted to be back home soon. It had been a bit boring today just shadowing the three. It perked up after they had begun their battle with the beast. Maybe he could find a place to eat before he got back on the train. Scream. Naruto whipped back toward the scream. He knew that voice. It was Mira Jane, but why? They beat the monster. Had they been ambushed by dark mages? Another beast? It didn't matter, he'd face it all the same. When he arrived back in the clearing, perched in a tree, he couldn't find Elfman. The beast had gotten back up. Had it done something to Elfman? He could see Mira Jane, wounded and laying on her side. Lisanna was attempting to tend to her arm. It must have broken. The beast gave a mighty roar as he charged the two girls. It was that moment Naruto revealed himself, by giving a vicious kick to the side of the beast's face, sending it across the field. Are you two okay? Where's Elfman? He asked quickly, never turning away from the direction of the beast. And Naruto? Why are you here? Lisanna stuttered out. He never got to reply as the beast came charging back towards them. It was angry now. He charged a Rasengan. He couldn't worry about this. He put this thing down so he could help Mary Jane and find Elfman. He jumped toward the monster, intent on burying his technique in the thing's face. Don't! That's Elfman! He heard Mary Jane scream. Naruto heard her, and hesitated in his attack, eyes wide at the revelation. Unfortunately, the beast used that and swatted him through a couple trees. It gave a roar of victory and set its sights on the two girls once again. Lisanna stood in between her sister and possessed brother. Intent showed on her face she would not fight, but hopefully attempt to break the beast's hold on her brother's mind. The beast stalked toward her. It finally reached her and raised its large, clawed hand. Big brother Elf, I know you're in there. You have to stop. Come back to us, she pleaded. To the girl's credit, the beast had hesitated for a moment, then as though it broke from its trance, it swung its claws at the girl. Before it could tear into Lisanna, it was knocked away by a tree, its large body disappearing through the trees before a large thud could be heard. Lisanna! What are you doing? Don't just stand there, he'll kill you, Naruto yelled as he appeared from where he had been flung. He overall looked fine. His clothes were torn in various spots, and he had a large gash above his right eye, blood dripping down his face. Roar! Go get Mary Jane and hide. I'll stop Elfman, Naruto told the younger girl. She ran off to do just that. Not used to the boy's angry side, the beast came through the clearing and stared him down. Alright, big guy, this is gonna hurt you more than it's gonna hurt me, he said, sorry in advance. Naruto then took off toward the beast. He needed to knock it out without killing it, and all he could think to do that was hit it hard, so he did just that. The bit of sage chakra he gathered increased the strength behind his blow as he made contact with the beast's forehead. He could see the force make its way through its body as it rattled to its very bones. It skidded back a good distance before it had decided to try and make its comeback. It truly was a wild beast as it flung its claws at his with no rhyme or reason, its claws leaving deep trenches in the ground and trees alike. Naruto was focusing on its head. Elfman would more than likely have a good headache when he awoke, but he'd live. With Mira and Lisana. Mirane, why is Naruto here? Lisana asked as she assisted the older girl with walking, careful of her broken arm. Mira Jane, for her part, didn't reply. She was lost in thought about the situation. Let me see your arm, the girl continued as she pulled out a spare shirt. She ripped it into strands to make a temporary sling for her sister. Don't worry, Mira, Naruto will bring Elfman back, she assured her sister. Still, Lisana got no response. Suddenly, they both felt the ground shake, a loud thundering boom echoing through the forest. Be careful, Naruto. Come back, Elfman, she said as she began to work on Mira Jane's injuries. With Naruto. Damn, Elfman, that thing is durable, Naruto spoke, catching his breath. He was sitting on the ground beside a now unpossessed Elfman. The boy was unconscious, but no worse for wear. The boy lay in a large crater, much larger than his possessed form. Naruto gave the boy a once-over, looking for any serious injuries. Finding none, he flung the boy over his shoulder and went in search of the Strauss sisters. When he found them, he saw Mira Jane leaning against a tree. Her arm was in a sling, but she was looking down. Naruto would have mistaken her for being asleep if he couldn't see her eyes look over in his direction. Elfman! Mirane, Naruto brought back Elfman, Lisana cheered, happy that this was behind them and her siblings safe. Seeing that Mira Jane was exhausted and injured, he made a clone and passed Elfman off to it. Lisana, go with Elfman to the train station. I'll get Mira Jane, he said softly. The girl nodded and followed after it. Naruto made his way over to the girl and received no indication that she knew he was there. She was deep in thought. Naruto looked over her body looking for extensive injuries. Finding none, he placed his right hand over her broken arm, his sun's seal glowing as it fixed the damaged limb. She was out of magic, but he couldn't restore that. He had no magic to give. It would come back with rest anyhow. There, all better, Naruto said as he gave the girl a smile. Still no response. Sigh, come on now, it's over. We gotta get you back to Magnolia. Let's not worry Lisana anymore, K. This time he received a nod, but the girl made no attempt to move. Naruto, never having received the gift of patience, picked the girl up, in a bridal carry. Still nothing. He began to make his way toward the nearest town. They could talk later. I'm sorry, he heard. It was faint, soft, but he had barely heard it. Looking down, he could see tears streaming down the beautiful girl's face, her makeup ruined, streaking down her puffy cheeks. It's okay, you don't have to, he started. No, it's not okay. If I would have listened to you, we wouldn't be here, she choked out. I'm sorry I didn't listen. I'm sorry my pride got in the way. I'm sorry for ignoring you. And I'm sorry for being weak. Mira Jane, he spoke softly. You're not weak. Yes, I am. I used up all my magic fighting it the first time. If you hadn't shown up, Elfman would have killed us. I'm weak. That's all there is to it. I shouldn't have brought them. I'm so stupid. Even you think I'm weak. Why else would you have followed us? She added, continuing to degrade herself. Stop it, you're not weak, you're not stupid, you made a mistake. That just makes you human. It's okay to make mistakes. And I don't think you're weak. I was worried about you all. I didn't want you to lose your family if something had happened, he said. I never had any family. I'm an orphan, he told her. My parents died the day I was born and I never had any siblings. I was alone for a long time. I didn't want that to happen to any of you. You love your siblings, and they idolize you. They want to grow up and be strong like you, Mira Jane. So, you wanted to show off a bit for them. I didn't follow you because I didn't believe in you or thought you were weak. I followed you because I think they aren't ready. Did you know when you go out on S-class quests, they don't do any of their own? Naruto told her. They stay at the guild until you return. They've never been on a job without you that I've seen. They wait for me? She said in thought. I never knew that. That's why I followed you. They aren't ready for this kind of challenge. They have to grow on their own before they can keep up with you, he told her. She once again began to lose herself in thought. Mira Jane? he said, getting her attention. Mira, she told him. Naruto raised an eyebrow. Call me Mira. Okay, Mira, how's your arm? He questioned. It's okay. It doesn't hurt anymore, she said as she realized she could move it. She really hadn't noticed what had happened while she was lost in her own head. It's healed? Yup, good as new, Naruto said to her with a smile. Naruto, thank you for everything, she said as she looked up at the blonde. Naruto looked back entranced by her words and the way her eyes shined in the moonlight. He felt her move closer towards his face. Mirani and Naruto are gonna kiss. They heard Lee-sana yell as they both turned to look at her. They hadn't even noticed her come back for them. How romantic. The hero kisses the girl under the moonlight like this. It's like out of a book, she exclaimed excitedly. Both young adults began to stutter and make excuses, both denying the girl's claim. Oh, I ruined it, didn't I? Lee-sana frowned, seeing she had clearly interrupted the two. Lee-sana, you're supposed to be with Elfman, not spying on me. Mira shouted, embarrassed. I'm sorry I interrupted your romantic moment. Okay, it's just the way Naruto's carrying you. The way you two looked at each other and the full moon, I got excited. Okay, the girl said before heading back towards the clone and her brother. It was then that Mira noticed the very intimate way Naruto was carrying her, left hand under her knees right behind her back, her head nestled safely in his chest. He was warm too, and oh, just keep going, she told the blonde as she now refused to look at him. Luckily it was dark, or he would notice the atomic blush she was now sporting. Skip. Naruto and the three siblings had made it to the train station and had gotten tickets for the last train to Magnolia for the day. They got a private room to rest on the long ride home. The train had just taken off to its destination only moments ago. Elfman was still unconscious, lying on one of the room's tiny beds. Lee-sana, having finally settled after the excitement, had passed out along with her brother. This left an embarrassed Naruto and Mira who hadn't said much to each other since their not almost a kiss. Both sat next to each other wishing the train would magically arrive in Magnolia to spare them the awkward silence. You said you were an orphan? Didn't you have anyone to look after you? Mira said, wondering about the boy's past. Naruto, who looked even more uncomfortable now, shifted around. I'm sorry, I shouldn't have asked that, she said regretfully. No, it's okay, it's easier to talk about now, he reassured her. Where to begin? Well, I guess it's easier to just come out and say it. The day I was born, a demon attacked my village. My dad was the village leader. He went to fight the demon. The demon killed both my mom and my dad. They both died protecting me, he told her. I'm sorry, Naruto, she told him, but if they killed them the day you were born, how come it didn't kill you? Saishi's perceptive. Well, you see, they couldn't kill the demon, but they could seal it away, in a person. He started, a baby. He could see the look of recognition flash across her face. And no one really looked after me after I turned 5, I got kicked out of the orphanage. People didn't like me because of the demon he said. Thought you were the demon, Mira finished softly, her mind racing as she compared Naruto's past and her own. They were so similar. When I was 6, Elfman was 5 and Lee-sana had just turned 4. Our mom died, she was really sick, we were taken into the local orphanage. When I turned 9, a demon attacked our town, it attacked us. That was the day I discovered my demon takeover magic. But I couldn't control it. My right arm looked like a demon's. I couldn't turn it off. I hid it from everyone. But eventually they found out, she told the boy. When they did, they chased me out of the town. They thought I had become the demon that attacked them. We were so scared, lost in the woods, 3 kids with no way to protect ourselves, she said. Eventually we were found by the master. He brought us to Fairy Tail and taught me how to use my magic, she finished. You're just like me, Naruto whispered, but Mira heard him. No! I had Elfman and Lee-sana. You had to go through life on your own. You're so much stronger than me. I wanted to quit so many times. If it hadn't been for those two, I don't know what I would have done. Mira told him, you don't have to be alone anymore, you've got us now. Thank you, Mira. I've only met one other person who could understand what it was like to grow up the way I did, he told her. But that's another story for another time. They sat in silence for a few moments, thinking about each other's stories, feeling the repeated tremble of the train rolling across the tracks. Why have you been so nice to me? Mira finally questioned. All I've done since the day we met is be a bitch and put you down, so why? 'Cause we're guildmates, comrades. It's not my place to judge who you are or why you do it, he replied. You're so kind and caring, you could have been spiteful. But you became you, she said, staring at the boy, hoping that staring at him might give her answers to her unasked questions. So, this is the real you, huh? Naruto said out of the blue. I gotta say I like this Mira. Mira, having heard him say he liked her, took it slightly out of context and had a slight pink cross her face. Gathering her emotions and steeling her nerves, she spoke. I like you too. Looking at him waiting for a reply, Naruto smiled back at her. Well, that's good. I didn't think you cared much for anyone outside your siblings. No, Naruto, I like you, she said, hoping he would catch on and she wouldn't have to explain. Unfortunately for her, Naruto was dense. He didn't pick up on hints like this, ever. Even after that priestess asked him to give her children. Yeah, I like you too, Mira, he said, confused by her emphasis on like. Poor Mira, she had fallen for an idiot. And oh, you dolt, I like you, like a boyfriend, she said, irritated with his lack of understanding. Naruto couldn't find any words and just stared at the white-haired beauty. I've felt this way for a while now. It started when we met. I thought you were handsome. I thought you had a rockin' body when you got your guild mark. You beat me in a fight and I was mad. Mad that you beat me, yes. But more because I wasn't even close. But when you checked on me, the concern in your eyes, no one's ever been worried about me like that before, she confessed. Well, besides my siblings. This was the moment of truth from Mary Jane. She had bared her soul to Naruto. She told him of her past, which she was reluctant to tell anyone, mind you, and she had told him of her feelings, which she hadn't even told Lee-sana. And now she waited. Naruto, for his part, had never been confessed to like this before, so he had a blush that put his mother's hair to shame on his face. I like you too, Mira. When we met, you didn't take any shit from anyone, and you cared for those close to you. But now I realize it's because you had to be strong for your siblings. You had to take care of them and raise them. You're stronger than you give yourself credit for, Mira, Naruto said, telling the girl what he thought of her. And I think you're super pretty. Like the prettiest girl I've ever met. And you've got a rockin' body too, Mira, he said, embarrassed at admitting he had checked her out.